Welcome in to Palmetto Sports Daily. I'm Carmine here in the upstate, where we're still dealing with some of that winter weather, slick conditions, so I decided play it safe, stay here at home, but less affected by the winter weather. Our panel for the day: Teagan Brown over in Myrtle Beach, Kevin Bilodeau in Charleston, and Rick Henry in Columbia. And we're talking about men's basketball, women's basketball, the Super Bowl teams now set, including a Gamecock who's going to be in the Super Bowl, and also the Luke Farrelly fiasco and Clemson football coach Dabo Swinney's thoughts on fixing college football and an incredible, unprecedented press conference with a tampering timeline. But we start with Clemson men's basketball. They lost, being ranked 18th in the country, hosting NC State, and Clemson graduate Will Wade, now the coach of NC State, who was also the coach of McNeese, the team that upset Clemson in the first round of last year's NCAA tournament. And Will Wade got his first ranked win of his career, or at least of this season, I should say, as NC State head coach over Clemson. They took that anger into Georgia Tech and stung the Yellow Jackets, winning by 14. And Clemson, guys, has now won 12 straight ACC road games, which is tied for the fourth longest streak of ACC road wins in a row of all time. So they're coming back this week to host Pitt, which if they can beat Pitt, it'd be their 15th straight win over the Pitt Panthers. And I know we also have some Coastal men's hoops to get to as well.
Yeah, we do. You know, the Sean's having a lot of success this season. They're also on a winning streak. They are on a 5-game winning streak. It is their most since the 20-21 season. The Sean's taking down Southern Miss this weekend, 85-67 at home, and they had a pretty big crowd too. Lots of people getting in from that cold weather outside, even if it wasn't snow here in the Grand Strand. But Coastal really finding their rhythm again. Joshua Beadle, AJ Dantzler, Rasheed Jones, the playmakers for this one. And they've got another game coming up this weekend. Or rather on Thursday, they're hitting the road to South Alabama, the first time they'll play them this season. So Coastal looking for that 6th win, a very different story than what we've seen from Coastal these past few seasons. But I know that we've got some other basketball news from the weekend too, Kevin.
Yeah, all 3 low-country teams in action over this past weekend, including the College of Charleston, and they were led to a victory on Saturday over Elon, 80-70. And really the key for the College of Charleston has been the emergence of their big man, Christian Reese, who was just named the CAA Player of the Week earlier this afternoon. Another huge afternoon for him on Saturday, as he came away with 29 points and 18 rebounds. So for the week, in 2 games of CAA play, he would average 25 points, 13.5 rebounds. You see him right there. The transfer in from Duke putting up huge numbers the last couple of weeks. And really, if any team in the CAA has a big guy like that who's able to put on moves like that, they're going to instantly become, if not the main favorite, one of the main favorites to reach the conference finals. So CFC, if they can keep this guy rolling over the next few weeks, they're going to be a real team to be reckoned with when it comes to winning that conference tournament and going on to the NCAA tournament, which amazingly isn't all that far off. We're just talking about 5 or 6 weeks away. As for Charleston Southern and the Citadel, they were both in action on Friday night. They moved their games up from Saturday because of that incoming winter weather. A tough one for Charleston Southern. They went on the road against Longwood, took Longwood into overtime. Alon Sumler, a huge night, had 30 points, 9 assists. They would hit a 3 towards the end of regulation that sent it into overtime. CSU was on top in overtime. Longwood scored a couple of buckets late in order to come away with an 81-79 win. So CSU falls to 11-11 on the season. They got off to that really good start. They've kind of been struggling the last couple of weeks as they look to bounce back coming up on Thursday night. And then the Citadel, they went over to East Tennessee State on Friday. Another tough one for the Bulldogs. They fall 84-55. So a tough loss for the Cid on the road after they'd really started to turn things around. They had won 3 out of 4 after not winning a Division I game for the good first half of the season. They started to turn things around, took a big step back on Friday night with that loss to ETSU. Rick, South Carolina also in action on Saturday.
Yeah, and the results not too good as they fall on the road to Texas A&M, 92-69. And you know what? I have to apologize to Lamont Paris and the Gamecocks. This loss is on me. When I started watching the game, South Carolina was up 19-16. They had a 12-0 run that helped them get out to that advantage. But as soon as I started watching, Whew, A&M goes on an 18-0 run, and that basically was your ball game. Carolina, they were down by 21 at the half. The Aggies' largest lead was 32 points, so that one is on me. Maybe I will avoid watching their next game when they host Florida on Thursday. Carmine.
Yeah, they definitely need all the help they can get. And just wanted to add to Kevin's point, great to see Christian Reeves, the College of Charleston center. Like you said, Duke transfer, also played, if you can call it that, at Clemson last season. Barely saw the court, but good to see him having success. And his former team, the Tigers, just dropped from ranked 18th in the country to back to 22nd, where they were a couple weeks ago after the NC State loss. But then after the win at Georgia Tech, they are now 7-1 in the ACC. So that's it for men's hoops. We have women's hoops, and then Dabo Swinney's epic press conference in just a few minutes.
And welcome back to Palmetto Sports Daily. In our opening block, we talk men's basketball. Right now, we are going to talk women's basketball. And the Gamecock women, a big win on Sunday at the CLA as they beat Vanderbilt 103-74. It was a top 5 matchup. The Gamecocks were number 2, but they were coming off a loss to Oklahoma, where they did not play well at all. They didn't shoot well. They didn't rebound. And their defense was a little shaky. So going into the game with Vanderbilt, South Carolina head coach Don Staley made an adjustment in her lineup. She put Agat McKeer in the top 5, and she sat down Medina Olcott. And the result, McKeer, a little more athletic, you have more quickness, and they came out on fire. They went up 11-2 on the Commodores, and they just kept it rolling from there on. And Olcott came off the bench, scored 17 points, had 7 rebounds, and actually played more minutes than McKeer. Here's head coach Don Staley talking about making that change in the lineup and how it paid off.
Obviously, we talk about it. We want to, everybody wants to get better, and getting better takes. It takes effort. It takes sacrifice, and all of our players were willing to do that, no matter what it took for us to win the game. We did get off to a really good start. I thought just starting a smaller lineup, we could apply a lot more pressure than we normally do, and also just floor spacing from an offensive standpoint. And I don't want to make sure that I say this. Medina is not the scapegoat at all, and I made sure I told her that it's not.
Again, Olcott played more minutes than McKeer coming off the bench, and I really like the flexibility that I'm seeing in this Gamecock lineup. Also, in this week's AP Top 25, the Gamecocks at number 3, Texas is number 4, Vanderbilt is, I think, still there at number 5. Anyway, you've got 10 SEC teams in the top 25. So things are, it's just going to be a rough road from here until March.
Yeah, that league is just incredibly competitive, and an ACC team trying to maybe eventually, guys, crack the top 25 is the Clemson women's basketball team. Coach Sean Poppy really wanted to get a win at Virginia Tech, where he was an assistant coach for 6 seasons before taking over the head job at Clemson. The Tigers came up just short in that game, but over the weekend, a huge win at South Bend, winning over Notre Dame 65-58. It's the first time in 5 seasons that Clemson has beaten Notre Dame. Now, of course, this Irish team is not the same as we've seen in recent years. They're not as good. Hannah Hidalgo, though, did have 30 points against Clemson. But I love these similarities between the women's basketball team and the men's basketball team for the Tigers, because the women have 6 players averaging between 8 and 12 points. Their leading scorer, Mia Moore, averages 11.8 points per game, very similar to the men's team, and also the fact that both of them have the ACC's best defense is a recipe for success. So here's Coach Poppy with his 2 kids and his star point guard after a big win at Notre Dame.
We feel like we let one slip away, then to come right back. I think that speaks to kind of the culture and the people that we have in that locker room as we're building. And so I know it had been a long time, but we've only been here 2 years. That's all we can really talk about. This one beside me has been with me for both years, and it's a big one for a lot in the program's sake, but ultimately for this team. Right, and they have dreams and aspirations of getting themselves to an NCAA tournament, and road wins like this at Notre Dame, it goes a long way down the stretch.
So big win for them, and they come back to Little John to host SMU on Thursday. In that Notre Dame game, last note, Taylor Johnson-Matthews came off the bench, scored 18 points in 22 minutes on 7 for 8 shooting and 3 for 3 from downtown. She is a firecracker, getting hot from outside. She can heat up in a hurry when she is on. So great to see her getting it rolling. And Teagan, another road win as well in your area.
Yeah, Coastal Carolina women's basketball on the road at Southern Miss, grabbing a win that they really needed after losing to Louisiana prior to that. The Chants coming out on top, 81-55. Tracy Houston led the team in points with this one, 24 points, a season high for her. And then also we saw Kinsey Grimes make a comeback. I know she was dealing with injuries, so she was back on the court. She put up 15 points. And then Kristen Williams adding 18 points as well. And Kristen Williams is one of the leaders in all of NCAA right now for made three-pointers, and she continues to be a weapon for Coastal on the court with those. Coastal Carolina, they are now 10-11 on the year. That is their third Sun Belt win. They do have 6 conference losses, but they're finding a little bit of a rhythm here. But, I mean, they've talked all season, just that's something that they've struggled with, especially with all the injuries that seem to be plaguing them. So they're going to be at home on Wednesday to take on Texas State. Tip-off for that is at 6 o'clock. So I'll be at that game Wednesday night, but we're going to take a quick break here on Palmetto Sports Daily. We'll be right back with more.
Welcome back to Palmetto Sports Daily. If you missed it on Friday, Dabo Swinney had what may be an era-defining press conference up at Clemson Friday afternoon as he was introducing his new and former OC Chad Morris back to the Tigers. But then the questions came up about linebacker Luke Farrelly, who had gone to Clemson, transferred over from Cal, was looking like he was going to be a member of the Tigers, started taking classes, and then just up and left to go over to Ole Miss right in the middle of the semester of work. So, Carmine, you were there. You got to hear everything Dabo said. An amazing press conference. So what were your takeaways from that?
Yeah, it was. Really, it was funny because it was uninterrupted and no questions, because by the time Dabo had finished with this press conference, we were about 40 minutes over, or at least 30 minutes over the allotted time, because he went on the Farrelly fiasco timeline for 20 minutes, and then after that took another 30 minutes to address ways to fix college football as far as the transfer portal, scheduling and the calendar dates for the transfer portal and revenue sharing and all these different type of things that he ended up going into. And like you said, Kevin, it was originally one of the big topics was going to be introducing Chad Morris, who was the offensive coordinator from 2011 to 14, now coming back for a second stint with the Tigers. But once the timeline of the Farrelly tampering came out, then it was all talking about that, and Dabo also saying it was crazy because it was just timestamps of day by day, minute by minute of how Ole Miss, according to Dabo and what he laid out, tampered with Luke Farrelly after he had signed with the Tigers, signed his scholarship papers and revenue sharing agreement, and then left for Ole Miss, including saying that Ole Miss head coach Pete Golding texted Farrelly saying, "I know that you're signed, but what's the buyout?" And also sending him a photo of a $1 million contract that he had drafted up for Farrelly, which when Farrelly declined, according to Dabo, then the offer was up to 2 years and $2 million. And then a few days later, Farrelly was in the compliance office right before end of day on Friday, the final day to re-enter the portal, and he all of a sudden was off to Ole Miss. So here's Dabo on the Farrelly timeline here.
There's tampering, and then there's blatant tampering. Tampering 101 is when you're talking to kids who aren't in the portal. Tampering 201 is when you've already negotiated the deal with the kids not in the portal. Tampering 301 is when you got a kid who's gone in the portal, signed somewhere, moved there, gone to classes, and you're texting them while they're in class. That's like a whole nother level of tampering.
And based on everything that Dabo laid out, it certainly was. And Kevin, I like the term you used, era defining, and I've been saying just unprecedented, because when have you ever heard a coach lay out the timeline of another school tampering with their school? A lot of other coaches are probably afraid that their program's going to get investigated for tampering they might be doing if they go out and accuse somebody else of tampering. But Dabo running a squeaky clean operation from all accounts, according to compared with everything else we see in college football, and he comes forward and also challenges other coaches to do the same, Kevin.
Yeah, and it wasn't just laying out the timeline. It was naming names. He named the Ole Miss head coach. He named the GM
right.
and the recruiting coordinator, the people who were in charge of this. He was going scorched earth on Ole Miss. So he was leaving no doubt that in his opinion, what they did was wrong, and he needs other coaches now to start stepping up and naming names as well. Assuming, like you said, that their programs are clean enough, because that's the problem. Most teams aren't clean enough that they can go in and do this and not have it turn right back around on them. I think that's where Dabo's going to run into some trouble. The thing I enjoy the most about this is the pettiness that Clemson is still showing over this, because if you go to their team roster on the team website, Ferrelli is still listed on there, and if you go under his bio, it's just a video of Dabo's press conference, which just bravo. Just perfect job there by Clemson, Rick.
I was off Friday. I was getting, one of the things I was doing, getting the oil change in my car, and while I'm sitting there waiting, I'm pulling up those clips of Dabo, and I'm like, oh my goodness, this is so good. Because Dabo really just pulled back the curtains, because all before with this NIL and transfer portal thing, we really don't know what's going on behind the scenes. But there he is, giving us dollar amounts, the timeline, communications with Ole Miss, the agent, everyone. I need more of that. But it was great, and I'm glad Dabo did it. I mean, I haven't seen anything to compare with it. Going back to the days when it was illegal to pay players and do any kind of things to give yourself an advantage. And I remember after a game between Clemson and North Carolina State, when Danny Ford was Clemson's coach, Monty Kiffin was NC State's coach. They're walking off the field, and someone picked up a conversation between Danny and Monty where Danny was going, "You're the one who turned us in. You turned us in. I know it." Oh, yeah. So, Dabo, much respect to you. Teagan?
Yeah, I mean, I was just glad to see Dabo speak out about all of this, because if there's no coach that speaks out to talk about the tampering, to show receipts of everything, then nothing's going to change. You figure there's going to be even more of this. And I mean, even right now with this situation, you have to wonder, okay, well, this happened, supposedly, and Dabo put all this evidence out there. What's the NCAA going to do about it? What are these schools going to do about it? Is anything going to be done? I mean, I think that's the question that we all have, Carmine.
Yeah, and it's a great question, because if Luke Ferrelli is allowed to play next season for Ole Miss after these tampering violations are proven to be true, then what standard does that set for coaches tampering whenever they want, players leaving whenever they want, after signing documentation, revenue sharing and scholarship papers to stay with the program? So, really interested to see the ripple effect this causes, but we'll be right back after a short break.
Welcome back into Palmetto Sports Daily. We have just a little bit left of football season left, because the Super Bowl is now set. It'll be the Seattle Seahawks and the New England Patriots. Of course, Kevin is already smirking about that, because that's his team. Guys, I think I at least figured from the beginning the Seahawks would be a part of this. I don't know if I entirely figured the Patriots would dethrone my Buffalo Bills, but I'm kind of curious your guys' thoughts. The Seahawks open as the clear favorite. more than a 60% chance of winning according to the Athletics poll. Kevin, we'll start with you. I know you're the expert on the Patriots.
Yeah, I mean, it was a great Sunday. Sorry, it is a little hot here in the studio, so I just wanted to
Oh my
take his jacket off real
gosh.
quick.
Oh,
So,
come on.
you know, as the most impartial person here, obvious. Oh, quit the booing! Everyone, quit booing. Sorry, I don't root for loser franchises like the rest of you guys do. I don't know what to tell you.
gosh.
Sorry, a team
Shameless
that hasn't
plug.
won a Super Bowl in 3 decades, a team that can't even get to the Super Bowl with the MVP. Carmine, who do you root for? The Giants? Get out of here! What are we even talking about? Just a shout out to all the
I know you don't
Patriots
like
fans,
them.
because they're the ones who have really put in the time and the effort, and it's just a really rough 6-year stretch we had to go through there, and to still just come over this and come out like the champions we are. I'm just really proud of Patriots Nation, Carmine.
Wow. Well, you haven't won anything yet, Kevin. I mean, you have won, obviously, you got 6 Super Bowls to your name, but realistically, though, what do you think your chances are against the Seahawks, trying to be as unbiased as possible?
Yeah.
Hey,
win.
let me take it here.
And
Okay,
if
I'm
Matt
going
Collins
with.
is going in with the Warriors bottles again, win by $1 billion.
Hey, I'm going with Seattle and their defense. You got 2 former Gamecocks on that defense, Nick Emanwari and Ernest Jones. And you also have a Gamecock on the Patriots defense, Marcellus Dahl. I think he's on the inactive list, but I'm taking Seattle and that defense to just crush Kevin's New England Patriots. Carmine?
Kevin, how can the Patriots win this? Be honest.
Oh, don't worry. We've got 2 weeks to talk about it, Carmine. I'm going to go beat by beat over these next 2 weeks. That's going to wrap it up for Palmetto Sports Daily. We will see you back here tomorrow.